Major Andy Johnson, and I'm the organiser of the event today. What I'd like to do is stand out of the way of the presentation screen so that I can run through a few very brief points about the activities today, and I will be speaking throughout the event in order to let you know what's happening and what the next details are. Key point there, please, if you can put your mobile phones to silent, I'll be most grateful so that we don't interrupt the presentations as they occur, and that will be picked up. Apologies for the light coming in the back. I do hope you can see the main parts of the presentation. First of all, just in terms of general housekeeping is really why I'm here. Obviously to welcome you to the National Memorial Arboretum, which is a fantastic site, and thankfully the sun is shining, and hopefully the forecast is good all day, which is very reassuring. If there's a fire, please exit by one of the fire exits, and we will be guided by the NMA staff, and we're likely to be moving across to my right, your left, in terms of where we go. And if there's any other security incidents, we will be guided by the National Memorial Arboretum staff. Toilets and facilities are in the main building where you arrived, and that's where they're located should you need them. If you're keen users of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like I am, then the details are in your programs of the hashtags to use. Today's hashtag is Saragarhi 2017. And there is a Wi-Fi password and user ID that hopefully works in this area, but certainly does work in the main building. So please do take photographs, but if you do, try not to be intrusive into the presentations or stand in the way of any of the moving parts as we're going along throughout the day, because I will have to ask you to move out of the way as we're going along. Timings are crucial, and I'm already late. So timings are crucial. There's a key moment at 1300. We need to be ready to receive the Guru Granth Sahib outside, all formed up, ready to move to process then to the Armed Forces Sikh Memorial. So that's a crucial timing. So I will ask all speakers to speak to the time. If anybody's got any questions about the event, please do get in touch with any member of the team in uniform, and they'll put you in touch with somebody that can help. Here's a programme of activities which is already in the document that you should have that will take you through the process. So we're into the welcome phase and speeches. So before I introduce Colonel Richard Maybury, the Deputy Commander for Headquarters 11 Signal and West Midlands Brigade, could I introduce Mrs. Mandeep Kaur, the Armed Forces, the chaplain to the Sikh chaplain to the Armed Forces, to say, to recite a prayer for us to commence the activities. Mandeep, thank you.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Khalsa. We talk about Khalsa, but who is this Khalsa? Just to mention few attributes of Khalsa: the one who loves the Guru, the one who fights bravely in the battle, the one who does not slander, the one who fights in the front line, the one who helps the needy, the one who overpowers the enemy within and the enemy outside. I think we're all aware of the enemy within, our own jealousy. We feel angry, hatredness towards other, fear. So Khalsa is the one who fights the war daily against internal and external enemies. So Khalsa is a saint because within, and a soldier from outside as well. And a statesman, of course. So the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, the Khalsa is a living image of my own spirit. I eternally abide in the spirit of the Khalsa. Khalsa mero roop hai khas, Khalse mein ho karo nivas. Let's pray. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the first Guru. This is a hymn from him, Mahalla Pehla. मरण मून सा सूर्या हक है, जो होए मरण परवानो, सूरे से आगे आखिए, दरगह पावे साची मानो, दरगह मान पावे पत स्यों जावे, आगे दुख न लागे, कर एक त्यावे तां फल पावे, चित सेविए पौ भागै ऊंचा नहीं कहना मन में रहना आपे जाने जानो मरण मून सा सूर्या हक है जो होए मरे परवानो मरण मून सा सूर्या हक है जो होए मरे परवानो वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Can you hear me? As you've heard, I am Her Majesty the Queen's representative for this county of Staffordshire. And may I add my welcome to you all to the National Memorial Arboretum, who are our hosts on this fine, I'm happy to say, fine morning. We meet today, as you've heard, to commemorate the famous battle honour of Sikhs serving in the old British Indian Army, Saragarhi. We will hear more about that later, and through it, to celebrate the long history of service, both alongside and within the British Army, of Sikh personnel. In 2014, Sikhs gathered at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, to mark Saragarhi Day and launch the British Armed Forces Sikh Association. We will hear about the achievements of the association and those of its members shortly. In 2015 and 2016, the day was commemorated at the Honourable Artillery Company in the City of London. And I am especially pleased to welcome you all to the West Midlands to commemorate Saragarhi in 2017. In 2014, not only did we celebrate and commemorate Saragarhi Day at Sandhurst, but a group of serving senior British Army personnel visited India to take part in commemorations there. And as you've heard from Colonel Maybury, this has been repeated in 2017 with different personnel visiting different sites. We shall hear from them through a video taken in India and sent across the internet to us today. Every time we commemorate the battle, the Army aims to promote and recognise Sikh military service and to develop mutual understanding between all communities and the armed forces. There should be plenty of opportunity to hear your views and answer your questions, both formal and informal. Please take the opportunity to engage with all the serving service personnel to learn about their experiences. After the talks this morning, it'll be time for our commemoration. And for the first time at Saragarhi commemorations, the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy Sikh scripture and leader of the Sikh faith, will be in attendance, leading the procession to the Sikh memorial. We thank the Darbar Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Gurdwara in Walsall and also Mrs. Mandeep Kaur, Sikh chaplain to the Armed Forces, for their assistance in securing the presence of the Guru. There will be a formal service followed by a minute's silence near the Sikh memorial, and we will have the opportunity to see a display by the band of the Royal Armoured Corps, who have travelled from Catterick in North Yorkshire to join us today. I would like to also add my thanks to Mr. Amrit Khan for generously providing our lunch from the Punjab restaurant in Covent Garden. And may I also extend my sincere thanks for their continued support. I hope that you, our honoured guests, will enjoy the day and engage with your army, your armed forces. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like now to introduce Mr. Satnam Singh Puniam to the stage, who will be delivering a message from Lord Singh of Wimbledon, who unfortunately was unable to join us today because of the volume of parliamentary work in Westminster over these couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Lord Singh couldn't really make it, so he's sent a message for me to read. I was just reading before that, I was just reading Saragarhi, and Sara means red, and Gari means battlefield. What a name. So this is a message from Lord Singh of Wimbledon, Director of NSO. Lord Lieutenant, Lords, Ladies, members of BAFSA, honored guests and friends. It's a real pleasure to be able to address you on this commemoration of Saragarhi Day, one of the most heroic episodes in the history of warfare. On this day in 1897, 21 brave Sikhs of the then 36th Sikh Regiment holed up in a small brick and mud fort, held back an army of some 10,000 Afghan tribesmen for nearly a day to give valuable time to their army colleagues. Eventually they were all killed, but the thought of surrender never entered their minds. They lived and died true to Sikh teachings, Purja Purja Katmare, Kabhu na chhade khet. Always live true to your beliefs and fight for them at the cost of your own life. Their courage received a rare standing ovation in the British Parliament. All were awarded the Indian Order of Merit, then the highest gallantry award given to Indian soldiers. Their achievement has been recognized by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, as one of the 8 most inspiring stories of collective bravery in human history. Saragarhi Day sets the bar high for today's Sikh soldiers, but from what I have seen of our serving Sikh soldiers, they will be up to the challenge of living true to the spirit of Saragarhi, and I wish BAFSA every success. They add a meaty dimension to the peary one provided by the Sikh Armed Services Chaplaincy. Today, I believe there are about 200 Sikhs in British Army. According to population ratios, there should be more than 1,000. With BAFSA's lead, I'm sure numbers will significantly increase. I just heard that there are 140, so he thinks 200. It should be 1,000. So we are well below the estimation. I have long campaigned to see Sikhs and other faiths in all walks of life having proper spiritual support, and we made real progress in prison and hospital chaplaincy. About 12 years ago, colleagues and I from other faiths managed to get the British Armed Services to agree on the establishment of chaplains for other faiths. I was nominated as the endorsing officer for the Sikh faith and took part in an interview for the first Sikh chaplain, and we appointed Mandeep Kaur, and she has proved an excellent choice. Not only has her work achieved recognition from her colleagues in other faiths, but she has done much to bring Sikhs in the services together, particularly in the annual Chardi Kala chaplaincy conferences, which helps in the recharging of spiritual batteries. Her work has helped to bring serving Sikhs together. We owe her a great debt. The brave soldiers of Saragarhi set a high standard. I am confident that BAFSA and others in the armed services will live true to their example of inspiring courage, bravery, skill, and loyalty to duty. Bravery and courage that refuses to accept the bludgeonings of chance and helps put all our petty aches and pains and grumblings about the unfairness of life into true perspective. I'm sure Sikh personnel in armed forces will uphold the spirit of Sikh soldiers of Saragarhi and implement the values shared by Sikhism and the armed forces, the values of bravery, courage, discipline, respect for others, integrity, loyalty, and commitment to duty. Thank you for listening. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I will start with saying Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I think while we are waiting, they say that God works in mysterious ways. And I would like to say that Vaheguru Ji has worked in mysterious ways today for me. Because later this year, in early part of October, we are holding a fantastic exhibition where Maharaja Ranjit Singh and his great work, and including his throne, the throne on which he sat when he was ruling Punjab, that throne will arrive from Victoria Memorial Museum to Coventry Herbert Art Museum and Gallery. And I couldn't have asked for Vaheguru to bless me with this opportunity where all the Sikh leaders in UK are present here. I just want to make you aware that this exhibition will remind all of us, I'm a Hindu, but I'm a great fan of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. The vision of Khalistan and Khalsa that we have, and I have in my mind, that kingdom of Maharaja Ranjit Singh actually demonstrated to the world that Khalistan should look like that. You don't have to be a Sikh, you can be a Hindu, you can be a Sikh, you can be a Christian, you can be anything. Any subject who lived during the kingdom of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, they were very happy, treated with justice, treated with equality, and it was one of the best times Indian people will remember as part of the Indian history. And I would request everybody sitting here that when the time comes and we have Maharaja Ranjit Singh throne in city of Coventry, we will request all the Sikh leaders present here, particularly those who are from Midland area, to please support us. We will be probably telling everybody through emails or through media, social media, that this exhibition is taking place. And I think you don't have to be a Sikh. It is our moral duty. If you are proud of our Indian heritage, you can be a Muslim, you can be anybody. We would like to have your support for this exhibition. And I can assure you that you would love this opportunity to see the throne of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who is, a very important part of Indian history. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much for raising this awareness. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for everyone being here today to commemorate Saragarhi Day. And thank you very much for our school groups who've beginning to arrive now. In typical Handsworth fashion, they went straight for the samosas. And I can say that as a Handsworth grammar boy myself. So welcome to you all, and welcome to everybody here today. It's indeed a special occasion, as you've heard, for many a reason to be celebrating Saragarhi Day at the National Memorial Arboretum. Not just the 120th anniversary of the battle, but the first time this event is taking place in the Midlands. And because our very special guest later on in attendance will be remembering the bravery and sacrifices of the Sikhs on the frontier and during the World Wars. It's also a momentous occasion, as after lunch at 3:30, we'll be releasing my new film on the battle, a production that has entailed 7.5 years of research, and one within which we have brought this story to life in a highly visual and engaging manner, and I hope you'll enjoy the film later. My remarks now will be slightly shorter than what I would like, because I don't want to take away from any of the factual and visual elements that will be covered in the documentary. For now, I want to delve right into the heroic actions that took place in 1897, when these men, the 36 Sikhs, were sent to man the forts on the strategic Samana range. There, on the unruly frontier in modern-day tribal Pakistan, stood the main British forts of Lockhart and Gulistan. These did not have direct line of sight, and so a smaller outpost was built between them at a place called Saragarhi. While there were many other minor picket posts on the range, Saragarhi was the most important because through it, heliographic signal communications could be maintained between the two main forts or the commander and his second in command. While the telegraph had been invented much earlier in 1832 by Samuel Morse, the British found that the wire laid beneath the ground to carry these messages kept being cut by the locals, so it became necessary for other means of sending orders. This was through heliograph, a system of flashing Morse code with sunlight. Trouble began on the Samana when a group of Afridi and Iraqi tribesmen were incited to wage holy war or jihad by the Mullah of Hadda. They were angered at the prospect of the drawing of boundaries between British India and Afghanistan, the Durand Line. On the 9th of September, the tribesmen, numbering 20 to 25,000, gathered on the Samana Suk and began attacking the forts and the outposts, but they were unable to make any real lasting damage. By the 12th of September, the enemy had surrounded Saragarhi, realizing this would cut communications and troop movements between Lockhart and Gulistan, and that the British spread out would not, and with the British spread out, it would no longer be possible for the British officer, Lieutenant Colonel John Houghton, to send aid. Houghton, seen here in the centre, observed from Fort Lockhart what happened next and wrote about it in his diary. At around 9 a.m., the Pathans rushed Saragarhi, but were repulsed with around 60 losses as the Sikhs fired upon the mass of men. Diving behind rocks, folds and dips in the ground for cover, the Pathans rallied to try and make a second attack. But two tribesmen had also managed to get to the outpost and remained close under the walls of the northwest bastion where there was a dead angle. Unseen by the Sikhs inside, they began digging beneath the walls. The enemy also set fire to bushes and shrubbery to create a smokescreen with which to edge forward. They also noticed that the front door of this fort was wooden, despite it being covered in tin sheet to make it look metallic, and so they concentrated their fire on it. The signaller, Gurmukh Singh, continued sending heliographic messages, but he did not pick up any incoming from Major Charles Devoe at Gulistan, who could see the diggers clearly and was messaging the danger to Saragarhi. The Pathan smokescreen could account for why this was so, although the light is known to have penetrated through such haze. What's more likely is that he was unable to do so, as he was one man doing the job of three. Houghton too tried several times to sally forward with a party of rifles to divert the enemy away from Saragarhi, but the sheer number of tribesmen meant he could not get far without being outnumbered. The Sikhs continued to hold back the enemy, but by noon one sepoy had been killed and another wounded, while 3 rifles were broken by enemy gunfire. Just after 3 p.m, a section of wall where the diggers were at began to cave in. The enemy gave a final cry to advance and rushed through the new gap. As the jihadis crowded over their own dead and injured to get into Saragarhi, the few Sikhs remaining inside put up a stubborn defence, but were forced to retreat into the inner defences. Ishwar Singh is believed to have covered the retreat and engaged in hand-to-hand combat, while another sepoy secured the guardroom door from the inside and carried on firing, but was burnt to death in an ensuing fire. Gurmukh Singh too is said to have asked permission to pack away his equipment before joining the fight. In their orgy of violence, the enemy are known to have mutilated corpses. Houghton would later find such a relic in a village during the subsequent Tira campaign, and they also set the outpost ablaze, but they did not come upon the stack of gunpowder, which accounts for the large explosion heard from Saragarhi as it fell. The 21 Sikhs had made a gallant and valiant last stand, but the enemy had paid a high price for their victory, with around 180 dead. Details of the heroism travelled fast, being telegrammed via heliograph by a Times correspondent back to London and then reported in newspapers around the world. The Commander-in-Chief of India recorded his admiration of the heroism shown by those gallant soldiers, while the Governor-General of India, Earl Elgin, lauded Havildar Ishwar Singh, saying he displayed a heroic devotion which has never since been surpassed in the annals of the Indian Army. The British immediately saw the significance of this last stand in inspiring more Indians to serve. They built 2 memorial gurdwaras, one near Shri Harmandir Sahib, the Golden Temple in Amritsar, and another in Firozpur. An obelisk was also raised at Lockhart. All the memorials named the 21 Sikhs who were duly awarded the Indian Order of Merit Class 3, the de facto equivalent to the Victoria Cross, which was at the time not permissible for native Indian soldiers. The 36 Sikhs were awarded a battle honour for the Samana, and the 12th of September was set as a regimental holiday. But contrary to popular belief, UNESCO did not rank the battle as one of history's epic last stands, nor did the British Parliament stand to ovation. Any parliamentarian would know that clapping in the chamber is actually an affront to the Crown in Parliament. The 36 Sikhs would later become the 4 Sikh Regiment of the Indian Army, and since independence in 1947, the commemoration of the battle has been an Indian affair. This changed in 2013 when the Army hosted a special event at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, and in each subsequent year we have marked Saragarhi Day on its actual anniversary of the 12th of September. Doing so enables us to remember our past and our strong connection as both British and Sikhs, but it also inspires our future, inspiring young people to take up public service and to be devoted to duty just as the brave 21 were at Saragarhi. Thank you very much. I'm going to pause here, and there'll be some time a little bit later on for some questions, I believe. But as I said earlier, after lunch, 3:30 p.m., you'll get a lot more insight, a lot more detail about the battle when the film Saragarhi, The True Story is released here for the very first time. So thank you very much, and I look forward to sharing the film with you.
Honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the British Armed Forces Sikh Association, I'd like to welcome to the Battle of Saragarhi commemorations. The formal part of the presentation is over now. What we're going to do is turn it slightly. We're going to go into the informal part where I'm going to introduce members of British Armed Forces Sikh Association, so BAFSA, to come and take their places on the stage at the front. And we'll have an opportunity for them to tell you a little bit about how they came to join the armed forces, what are they doing at the moment. So if I could ask, obviously we have got Wing Commander Mandit Gatora here from the Royal Air Force, Lieutenant Brijinder Nijja from the Army Air Corps, and our civilian counterpart, we have Sharanjit Khalsi from the Civil Service, and just approaching, that's Corporal Simranjit Singh, and Lance Bombardier Singh from Lark Hill. And I'd like to invite Mandeep Kaur, our Sikh chaplain as well. We'll go through and ask them to introduce themselves individually and tell you a little bit about themselves. What is it they do? So Mandeep, if I could ask you to start with, please. Thank you.
My name is Mandeep Kaur, and I'm the Sikh chaplain to the British Armed Forces. My current role is to provide moral, pastoral and spiritual support to all the members of the armed forces who are Sikhs, their dependents, their families. So that's my main strand. The other priorities are advise chain of command, advise defense as a whole on the policy matters, anything related to Sikh matters. Other strand is educational, so go from place to place and educate about faith. Talk about faith really, so I'm a talker. But my ministry is wherever the Sikhs are, whether in the country or outside. I think that's about it.
I'm Lance Bombardier Singh, 47 Regiment, Royal Artillery. Joined the Army in 2012. Before the Army, I just done my bachelor's in IT. And what makes me join the Army is just a year before, I was watching the same day Battle of Saragarhi on the TV. And it's really pushed me to go for it, to do something, to show my identity more in the world. So I joined the Army in 2012 and stayed posted to 47 Regiment Royal Artillery. And my trade was we fly DH-3. I've been to Afghanistan in 2014, I had 20. And now currently we're doing flying watchkeeper in Ascension Island and all around the world. And side by side, as really interested, I like to play cricket. So I'm doing a gunners cricket as well. So that's about it. Day routine life is, that's just going. Thank you very much.
Sirs, Moms, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wing Commander Manjeet Gatora. I've actually served just coming up to 18 years now, and I think Max said, why did I join the service? Can I just introduce my father here? So, where is he? Come on, stand up. That is retired Flight Sergeant Avdar Singh Gatora. So he spent in the Air Force, he was a survival equipment fitter. He did 28 years and pretty much followed him around, I guess, through the Air Force. But if anybody wanted a reason why I joined the Air Force, it's because he introduced me to the Air Force family. And then I joined up, like I said, nearly 18 years ago, and joined up as an engineering officer. So we don't all fly, and we do other things as well. I've done various jobs in the Air Force. I've done both communications and aircraft jobs as an engineering officer. I've worked on the AWACS aircraft with a spinny disc on top. I've run airfield nav aids out in Bastion in 2009. And latterly, I've just, a couple of years ago now, I've just finished on 99 Squadron as a senior engineering officer. So if you saw all the relief aid videos that are coming out at the moment from Bryce Norton, that was my aircraft, C-17 aircraft from 99 Squadron, and I'm so proud to have served at that time for 2 years with them, bringing everything back from Afghan, doing a great job. Currently, I'm now the engineering branch and trade advisor for the Royal Air Force, so I kind of look after a third of the Air Force's manpower. So I'm there looking at recruitment, retention, development, and trying to figure out how on earth we've got new platforms coming in, how do we support them? So this is not stealing the Army's sandwiches, because I feel that we have a recruitment problem everywhere in all three services, and I think if you're going to join the Army, you're going to join the Army. If you're going to join the Air Force, I think you're going to join the Air Force. But if you want to have a chat with me afterwards, then I can tell you a bit more about the Air Force. But that's me in a nutshell, but please do come and have a chat with me afterwards.
Morning, everyone. I'm Sharonjit Kelsey. I joined Ministry of Defence in 2013. My background is very different to the majority of the chaps sitting next to me. So coming from a HQ background, my sort of initial role was to, as part of the Defence Transformation Programme, setting up Joint Forces Command HQ at Northwood. And I'm currently based at Northwood HQ. My current role is sort of oversight of capability programs that we're responsible to head office for. So I'm also a committee member of the British Armed Forces Sikh Association. They've very kindly let me in, I don't know why. And working with BAFSA for the past 2 years, it's been a learning curve for me. It's given me a totally different perspective of the armed forces, from working in a HQ sort of quite clinical environment. And it's been a real privilege, to work with these guys, and I'm still working with them. It's just good. Okay.
Morning, Sirs, Moms, ladies and gents. I'm Lieutenant Nijjar. I joined the Army relatively recently in 2014. Spent a year at Sandhurst, and then commissioned to the Army Air Corps as a direct entry officer. And from there, I've been in pilot training ever since. So I spent 6 months learning how to fly planes, another 6 months learning how to fly helicopters. Recently received my wings as an Army pilot, and now I've been selected for Apache attack helicopter training, which I'm going back to next week. While I've joined the Army, I joined the Army Cadet Force when I was young, which was just a bit of fun, really. There's no obligation to join, nobody forces you to do anything afterwards. But I quickly realised I needed something that was going to give me a challenge, that kept me outdoors, that kept me, doing some interesting things, and that's why I joined. Why the Army and not the Air Force? I prefer to dig in, not check in, and it's definitely the best service going. So, but I've had a really interesting career so far. Majority of it is in training, but some really exciting opportunities and challenges coming my way, hopefully. So that's me.
Good afternoon. My name is Simranjit Singh. I've joined in 2006 when service in Afghan in Coventry. I couldn't believe even Sikhs could join the British Army. I even went up to him and asked him, can we Sikhs join the Army? And from there on, from 2006, I did my basic training in Lichfield. I moved on to signal training in Blandford, down south of England. Then got posted to 21 Signal Regiment Air Sport. And then done various jobs with each unit. They do each role. So my interesting part for a job was guarding the Queen as a Queen's Guard, and currently serving in Stafford at the moment. That's it really. Thank you.
So what we're trying to do, and thank you very much for those kind words, what we're trying to do is reach out to our own communities by taking presentations like this through to gurdwaras, mandirs, masjids, which we've done in Birmingham quite recently when we had Earl Howe came across here, and you were part of that delegation, to reach those and educate the wider community about the contribution that's been made through our Soldiers to Schools program, so the World War I, where we're going out into schools and telling people about the contribution. I think I'm now going to turn to Captain Jay Singh Sohal, who's recently joined us, who was doing interviews out there. Jay, if I could ask you to expand on that, please.
Connection, the shared heritage and the shared history, indeed, that we as British Sikhs or British Indians have. And they were looking to borrow a bit of ours so that they can make this case to Congress to say, actually, look, in Britain, Sikhs serve with their turbans, their beards. Muslims have served with beards, and so have Rajput Dogras, other martial classes as well. So we can be very, very proud as Brits in terms of that history and that shared heritage that we have, where the British have, seen what an asset we can be and enabled us, and we've been empowered by it to step forward and serve with our identity and our faith intact. And it goes back, beyond Saragarhi more than 150 years, and Saragarhi obviously being 120 years ago. Bringing it to the here and now, I think basing ourselves out of that history and that heritage is a great place to start. So Saragarhi Day is all about taking the story of our community, engaging with those in uniform, and then projecting it out. And so, there are many historians I see here today. There are many young school pupils here today as well. It's about us being confident in our heritage and our history and being able to have those conversations with those who might not necessarily know, what is a Sikh, what is a Hindu, what is a Muslim, why do you look different, why do you have these religious practices? And I think if we can base ourselves out of the fact that, look, we're proud to be British, we have this shared heritage, and, this is what my identity means, because you will inevitably find people who just don't know. And I get this, and I've often had this, and I've taken a very journalistic view as a trained journalist to it, when if people don't know and you see that look in their face, I always ask the question, what's on your mind? I know you want to know something, and we've got to be confident in being able to address those questions. And it might be that when you've got a turban and a beard, you know that look all too often. But yeah, let's step forward and let's actually start, propagating and projecting our confidence and our faith and our values to the wider world.
To teach their kids, and not even that, if we have a time, get in touch with their schools and make a lesson for everyone, because end of the day these school students, they come up and they grown up and they tell everyone that what kind of knowledge they have. So if from a growing age, if they know about not only about the Sikh faith, the other faith, they are the future, so they're gonna tell everyone. Even I still remember, a few months ago, we had a family's day, and one of it's really, I think, 5-year-old boy, and he just come to me, says, "Are you Sikh?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Is Guru Nanak Dev Ji is your first Guru?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "Who told you to say?" And he says, "I had a Sikh lesson a few months ago." So I was really impressed with that when we go to schools and teach them about not only Sikhism, about the all religion and culture, because end of the day we are in the multicultural country or even multicultural army, so we need to, it's responsibility as a uniform as well, and every single person sitting down here to tell their kids and every single one that to liberate rather than hide it, tell them, expand it. That's all.
Just to answer your question about white supremacy in the armed forces and that, the army has a policy, a no-tolerance policy, and we embrace diversity and inclusion. And I went to the Army Diversity and Inclusion Conference a few months ago, and I was surprised there was over 500 people there, and there were two three-star generals. This is big business. It is serious business. The army has a no-tolerance policy in place. And it's supported by a thing called mandated annual testing and training, known as MATs. This is an annual process that everybody goes through, and diversity and inclusion is one of them, and that's where it covers things like shouldn't be part of this group, etc., do the right thing. So that happens to everybody, from the commander down to the private soldier. They all know. So a soldier coming into the army knows that if he's treated the wrong way, he's got avenues he can go to. The person who did it knows that he can't say he didn't know about it because he's been taught. What we can't do is govern in the evenings or weekends, and we recruit from society, and society at the moment is very hot, should we say. There's a lot of thoughts out there, Brexit, etc., but we recruit from them, so it's hard. The thing that we find hard to change is culture. We can change other things, but culture is something that is through an evolution, and we're on it, but it's going to take time. These people who are that way have these deep-seated views that MATs, by talking, probably won't have an effect on them, but we're doing the best that we can given the situation. I just hope that put your mind at rest to assure you that we are doing the best that we can.
That was a very long answer. The bottom line is you report it, we'll sort it. And I'm coming to your questions. If somebody's got a mic. But one of the other things that we do annually, we go to the Shatri Memorial Service as well, which Devinder Tillon, who's in the audience, we're very grateful for him, for organising that. And that's one of the ways we try to reach out to that community. Yes, sir.
Yes. First of all, we're very thankful that you are basically having a commemoration here for the soldier of the Saragarhi. Wanted to ask you one thing actually, because I know there has been a development in terms of having a Sikh regiment in British Army, which has been declined here and then. What I was basically just thinking, because I just recently came to know that we've always extrapolated our proportion. However, in this case, I think we're below 150 here, which is a shame, because as you said, we should have been at least 1,000. So, you know, like Gorkhas, they do have their own, the Royal Gorkha Rifles in British Army. Do you think the idea of having a Sikh regiment could actually encourage Sikh people to be more patriotic and join the army in terms of British? Because just to mention here, obviously this same decline has been seen back in India as well, post-1984, after the Indian army actually decimated the Sikh temple. So do you think, I think there is a great opportunity and a great gap to actually attract Sikhs to the British army. But do you think we're doing enough to entertain that or exploit that gap? Thank you.
That again, I think if I was to sit here and talk about a Sikh regiment, would probably take me half a day to cover all aspects thereof. Whether it's right or wrong, that's up to the politicians to decide. From an army perspective, would it be right to have a Sikh regiment in a multicultural country that we all live in? There are several questions that rise from that. Where do we start with that, the Sikh identity? Currently, there are about 7% of the people, Paisabdi from Handsworth told me at the weekend, who are traditionally baptized Sikhs. So that number is decreasing all the time, the number of people that we could possibly recruit from. And do we want to restrict? Inevitably, it would have to be an infantry regiment. Do we want to restrict the opportunities for our people? As you look across the panel, we've got, starting and end, we've got a Sky News reporter, a journalist. We got a chap in the Royal Signals, so communications at his very best. We've got a pilot, we've got a civil servant, we've got an engineering officer, a gunner, obviously our very own Mandeep Kaur from the Sikh spiritual viewpoint. Do we want to restrict the opportunities for our people to join the army? At the moment, if I want to go and join, Scots Guards, wearing a turban and beard, I can do. So that's some of those questions that we would need to need to answer. And would it be right? Would it be legal? Those are some of those questions that we would need to answer. At the moment, there are no plans to have a Sikh regiment. So, do you want to add to that at all?
I feel quite passionate about this because, just like Max said here, that we've got all these different trades here. In the Air Force, we have over 50 trades. In the Army, you've got even more than that. In the Navy, there's similar. Wouldn't it be great, rather than have a Sikh regiment, to have a Singh in every single cap badge, every single trade? Wouldn't that be amazing? In the Air Force, we have different squadrons. I want a Sikh in every single squadron. I want a Sikh in the RAF regiment. I want to see a logistics officer there. That's what it's about. We integrate, don't we? And if I'm totally honest, this is me taking off my uniform. The whole concept of the Sikh regiment comes from people who've never served in the British Army, British Armed Forces. It comes from elsewhere. So talk to the people who are actually serving. And we need to recruit from the UK and ask the people what they want to do. Do they want to join the Air Force, the Army, or the Navy? Or do they want to go and join one Sikh regiment? The armed forces is so diverse. There's so many different opportunities out there. Let's get rid of this concept of this Sikh regiment and look at where all Sikhs can be in all the armed forces. That's where we should be looking at. We've got so many different talents: doctors, engineers, logisticians, pilots. We've had pilots. Look at if you really, I urge you to go and read the history of Mahinder Singh Buja. He was a Spitfire pilot in the Battle of Britain. And I'll leave it at that. But the point is, we're so diverse. Let's keep it diverse, and let's not have this narrative of the Sikh regiment. Speak to the people who are actually serving. What do they see? Ask them. Don't look with rose-tinted glasses and think that you're going to suddenly recruit loads of Sikhs just because you have a badge. Index. Sorry.
Can I just, the problems of recruitment, or like Islamophobia has been mentioned. I mean, Sikhs have been victims of Islamophobia more than Muslims. And we have, lost lives as well because of mistaken identity and all that. And to me, it seems like it's the awareness which is missing. So if we make aware, if I say my granddad was great, people might not believe. If somebody else says it, then it becomes that it's believable. It's more value. So if Army sponsors this, going to schools, I go to schools, but how can schools I can cover? So it's manpower situation. So do we have in BAFSA a media man or publicity man who can actually liaise with media? And I don't know whether they will show anything to do with Battle of Saragarhi today on main news or not, but it should be shown. And if they are actually, our community sees that from somebody else's point of view, somebody else praising the courage of Indian Army, be it Sikhs, Hindus or Muslims, they all played a part. And if they can see that, and they can see you guys wearing the turban and the uniform, and then people will become encouraged, and they say, yes, there is a place for me in there as well, I can do it. And a lot of the times people think that I won't fit in because I wear a turban and this is how I look like, I won't be able to practice my faith. So do we have some kind of organization here, either Army as a whole or Sikh Association, who can actually liaise with media and try to portray sort of important dates and tell the public, general public, what our contribution is and why we are equal citizens here? Thank you.
I'll come in on that first part of that question, and the reason why, forgive me, I missed the beginning of this panel was that I was actually speaking to the BBC. So there'll be a news report about Saragarhi Day on BBC Midlands Today later. If you live in the East Midlands, there'll be another separate piece on that channel, and BBC News Channel, I hear, are now taking that report as well. So it will be well represented across mainstream media. Saragarhi Day is about us projecting our, our shared values to mainstream media, and that's what we've been doing over the past few days with the coverage that we've had on radio, on television, and online. There's a great piece on BBC History about Saragarhi, which I recommend everyone check out as well, because again, those sorts of outlets and connecting with audiences is quite key to this and that projection of our story. But I wanted to come in on the first point of your question, because many years ago, 2009, when you talk about Islamophobia and the issues that Sikhs face with the turban, I went off and I did an independent production called Turbanology, looking at the story of the Sikh turban and how this has happened and what's taking place with trying to engage with non-Sikhs about the meaning of Sikh identity. And the great thing I take a lot of pride in, and I know there are representatives here, is the fact that where I grew up, I was born in 1983, where I grew up in that year in Handsworth in Birmingham was where the turban rights campaign was waged. The Mandla versus Lee court case established Sikh identity within the highest courts, that you could not be discriminated against by wearing a turban. What we now need to do is project that to a new generation, young people who can be confident, have that information, and can go out there and actually say to people, or when they're asked or when they're questioned, have that ability to be able to engage and say, actually, you know what, I'm third generation or fourth generation British Sikh, this is our past, this is what we've done, but also the law protects me. And the problem that we're finding at the moment is that within our own communities, our young people aren't necessarily armed with that information. And you can question with where that comes from in terms of resources or that information, whether it's schools or elsewhere. But we've got a fantastic opportunity now with the Sikh schools. And certainly many individuals here in the Midlands are engaging through those Sikh schools with the wider communities. The Army certainly are doing a lot of engagement work with projecting that. And we need to continue doing that. So if there's individual places, and I know there are geographically issues in certain parts where we need to address that, let's get these resources out there and let's start educating people. But I'll defer to BAFSA Media to
I'll just say one thing on BAFSA. We're only a small organisation and we all have day jobs as well. And trust me, we do what we can and we go and engage with community where we can, but there's only a small number of us at the moment. And when we do, we try and do as much as we can. I think it needs to be in the national syllabus, and that's where it sits. If you really want to make a difference long term, that's where it sits. But I think that's above my pay scale.
If I can just steal a quote from Corporal Simranjit Singh, he once told me that Sikhs are a walking, talking Gurdwara. So we tend to get out to the community and tell people, but as the good wing commander said, we are a very small organisation. But what we can do in each of the brigade areas, so each of the regions across the country, we have a community liaison officer, and you can reach us through, in fact, we have today Major Andy Johnson and Lieutenant Colonel Jones at brigade level who are able to direct to go out to the community and support some of the events that you are doing. So it is possible. But as has already been said, very small organisation. I think we're into the last 4 minutes or so, and there are 2 questions. I'm very conscious that you've got a question you've been waiting for a long time.
Just a brief comment as a general member of the public who does have an interest and a respect for Sikh heritage and military history. I've also got concerns, like a lot of the public are, about army funding, possible extremism. I just wanted to make the comment that seeing you guys today, the way you project yourselves, articulate yourselves, and your general demeanour, the closer you get to that 1,000, the better. Because obviously, as far as personnel is concerned, the Army's in safe hands, is my view.
Thank you very much for those kind words. And we will do our level best to try and achieve that figure. But with the support of the Sikh community that is sat here, if you can get that message out to our young people, on behalf of the armed forces, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to achieve that at all. If I can take that as a final question, please, unless there's any burning ones.
I have a question, but before I ask the question, I'd just like to say how immensely proud I am to see you guys sat there representing our community in our armed forces. My question links back to the question that was asked earlier about conflict. Now, thankfully, all of you have said that personally you have not experienced conflict between your Sikh identity and your role within the armed forces. We're all glad to hear that. Occasionally things go wrong. you'll all be aware, maybe not everybody in the audience will be aware, that back in 1984, something my friend referred to when the Indian Army attacked the Golden Temple in Amritsar, the then British government made a very stupid decision, which is to send military advisors from this country to give advice to the Indian Army. Now, I think the general consensus is that that was a stupid decision. We may not have had the formal apology from the government. That's not the subject for today. But my question is, the consensus is it was wrong. And the army should have known it was wrong. And the army may have had some leeway in dealing with that situation. So the real issue for me is, if we're asking today to recruit from the British Sikh population into the armed forces, something I completely agree with, we should at the very least expect that the army is aware of our sentiments as well. And I think it's probably something, I don't know enough about your association, but I would ask that the association makes this part of its role to make sure that the army is aware of our sentiments so that we don't have similar mistakes ever happening again. Thank you.
Thank you for that interesting question. At the beginning of my presentation, I said that we work for the government. The government and the Ministry of Defence tell us what, when, how to do. We execute it. So any decisions at that level would have been or come from the government. The next one is my job. I've been set up. I'm part of the Army Engagement Group, but I'm also in charge of the Army Youth Outreach Team, and I'm putting a team together, specifically Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, and any other religion I can get hold of. So I try and select the right people who are serving, and then we go to the gatekeepers, religious groups, religious schools, etc., etc. And we call that break-in. So we go in civilian clothes to these people or groups that are reluctant to engage with the army for whatever reason. And I'll sit down in civilian clothes and just talk to them about the army and explain what the pathway is. We're not recruiting, we're just engaging with them and telling them what we do. And then from that point, we would then try and hand them over to the regional point of contact, the brigade, so that they can continue to nurture that. We also offer activities as well, assault courses, leadership things, team group activities, to try and let them see what we do in the army and hopefully break down their barriers, and they realise that it's not the army making the decisions, it's the army just execute them, and it's your army and this is what we can do. So we're trying to broaden their knowledge of their army, basically. So that's happening now. I've been tasked to do that, and once I get my team together, we will go out. So I could be knocking at your door.
I do hear your concerns on that, but what we do have within the armed forces, the system is aware of the sensitivities of what is going on out there. We work with them on a regular basis, and also we have what we call, to make the senior officers aware, we have what we call reverse mentoring. So people do work with at a very senior level. And the chairman of British Armed Forces Sikh Association is currently sat in regional command. So there is a two-way interaction of the feelings either on dress or sensitivities, which is regularly sort of fed back in. So I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just a quick brief before we leave. There is a stall on your right-hand side who are doing the head coverings. If you wish to experience turban, the star, for a day or a half an hour or 10 minutes, they're very happy to do that on you. They have the material as well. For those who, well, the requirement is to cover the head in a plain English. So whether you want to go and have experience of turban or a piece of cloth, they will offer you that. So please feel free to do that and use this time before we go outside and ready for Guru Granth Sahib Ji to arrive at 12:55. Okay, so please make sure that our heads are covered before we go outside. Thank you.
Thank you.